When Sarah inherited her late grandmother's estate, she expected to find the usual assortment of old furniture, dusty books, and trinkets. What she didn't expect was the old mirror tucked away in a dark corner of the attic, covered in a thick cloth as if trying to keep its secrets hidden. Intrigued by the mysterious object, Sarah carefully pulled off the cloth, revealing the intricately framed mirror. It seemed ordinary at first, a little too polished for something so old, but nothing that would immediately catch her attention. However, as she stood in front of it, Sarah couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that something was off. The reflection in the mirror wasn't quite like her. It felt different. She shrugged it off as an odd optical illusion, deciding that perhaps the attic dusk was playing tricks on her. But as she turned away, the mirror's silent, cold presence lingered in her mind. As Sarah settled into her grandmother's home, she couldn't help but feel a pull toward the mirror. It wasn't just the mirror's antique beauty that intrigued her. It was something deeper. Her grandmother had always been a bit of an enigma, a woman known for her strange rituals and whispered tales of the supernatural. The family had always dismissed those stories as nothing more than eccentricity, but Sarah couldn't help but wonder if they held more truth than anyone had ever acknowledged. She found herself walking past the mirror every time she entered the attic, her gaze drawn inexplicably to the glass. At night, she thought she could almost hear whispers coming from the direction of the attic, soft and melodic, like a distant lullaby. A strange attraction to the mirror grew stronger each day. Despite feeling a creeping unease, Sarah was determined to uncover its secret if there was one to be found. It wasn't until one late evening that Sarah truly began to notice the first signs of the mirror-esque unnatural behavior. Standing in front of it, she absent-mindedly adjusted her hair, preparing to leave for work. When she glanced at her reflection, her heart skipped a beat. The version of herself in the mirror didn't move the way she did. It was as though it was alive, breathing with its own mind. While Sarah smiled, the reflection smiled too, but with a strange, sinister edge. The reflection's eyes gleamed with an almost knowing look, a look that made Sarah shiver. Her stomach churned as she blinked, trying to convince herself it was just a trick of the light. She took a step closer to the mirror, only to find the reflection mimicking her every move. Then it did something she didn't. It tilted its head slightly, as if studying her. Days passed, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong with the mirror. At times, it felt like the reflection wasn't just mimicking her. It seemed to follow her, anticipating her every movement before she made it. One evening, as she prepared dinner in the kitchen, Sarah caught a glimpse of the mirror's reflection from the corner of her eye. She wasn't standing in front of the mirror, yet she saw it, the reflection, standing in the attic, staring back at her. Panic gripped her chest and her heart raced. She rushed to the attic, hoping to find an explanation. When she stood in front of the mirror, everything seemed normal again. Her reflection was exactly as it should be. She felt foolish for thinking anything was wrong. But deep down, part of her couldn't help but feel the growing presence of something or someone watching her. The oddities continued to escalate. The reflection began to show not just her own movements, but entire actions that she didn't remember performing. It was a cold, foggy evening when Sarah's unease turned into something much more terrifying. She had just returned from a long day at work and found herself drawn to the mirror again. As she stood before it, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The reflection in the mirror didn't just mimic her movements. It began to act independently. Sarah froze as her reflection raised one hand to touch the glass, its fingers pressing lightly against the surface. She instinctively reached up to do the same, but when her fingers brushed the cold mirror, she felt an icy shiver run through her body. Her reflection didn't mirror her anymore. It was doing its own thing, its hands pressing harder against the glass, its lips forming words that Sarah couldn't hear. The reflection looked at her, eyes wide with an expression of desperation and fear, as if begging her to understand something she didn't yet know. Sarah couldn't deny it any longer. The mirror was showing things that couldn't possibly be real. One night, as she sat in the living room reading, she noticed something strange in the reflection. It was subtle at first, just a flicker, like a shadow passing behind her. When she turned around, there was nothing there. She returned to the mirror, and again, shadow appeared, this time more distinct, forming into the shape of a tall, dark figure. It wasn't a person she recognized, an unsettling silhouette, with glowing eyes that seemed to follow her every move. In a panic, Sarah turned the lights on, but when she looked back, the figure was gone. Yet, as she stared into the mirror, she saw the reflection of her living room, exactly as it should be. except for one detail. The shadow was still standing there, looming in the corner, watching her. The air around Sarah seemed to grow colder as she approached the mirror. The reflection seemed to beckon her now, its eyes pulling her in, drawing her closer. Trembling hands, she reached out to touch the glass. As her fingers made contact, a wave of icy cold washed over her, causing her to pull back in shock. The sensation wasn't just cold, it was otherworldly, as though the glass itself wasn't made of mere material, but something that existed outside of time and space. A sharp, tingling sensation spread from her fingertips up her arm, making her feel as though she was being pulled into the mirror itself. She gasped and stepped back, her heart hammering in her chest. The reflection seemed to mock her fear, its lips curling into a sinister grin, as if it had won some unseen battle. Following nights grew more intense, and the mirror's influence over Sarah deepened. The reflection no longer mimicked her, it beckoned her, reaching out with its arms, urging her to step closer, come inside. The look in its eyes was no longer one of mere observation, one of hunger and desire. It was as though the reflection needed her to come closer, to give in. Sarah tried to look away, tried to ignore the pull, but every time she turned her back to the mirror, she felt a strange force urging her to return. Each time she stood before it, the reflection grew more desperate. Its movements became erratic, the face twisting in pain, almost as if it was trapped, trying to escape, reaching out to her for help, or perhaps to claim her. Every night, the mirror's hold over her grew stronger. It was impossible to resist any longer. One night, as Sarah stood before the mirror, the reflection didn't wait for her to make a move. It reached out and touched the glass, its hand meeting hers, sending a shockwave through her body. She staggered back, but the reflection was faster. Its hand, its cold, clammy hand, slipping through the surface of the glass, grabbing hold of her wrist. She screamed. No sound came from her mouth. The reflection pulled her forward, and she felt herself being dragged against her will. Desperately, she tried to pull away, but her body refused to obey. It was as if the reflection had taken control, twisting her movement, forcing her to step forward, closer to the mirror. Sarah fought against it, but it was too strong. The cold, icy grip tightened around her wrist, pulling her closer and closer until she was standing directly in front of the glass. The reflection's face was inches from hers, its eyes glowing with a twisted satisfaction. In that moment, it became clear. The mirror was no mere object. It was a portal, a gateway to another dimension. The reflection was no longer just an image. It was alive, a dark version of herself from a world where she didn't exist. It was calling her to cross over, to replace her, to take her place in that twisted alternate reality. Sarah's heart raced, her body trembling with fear. She realized the truth. If she didn't escape now, the reflection would take her, drag her into that alternate world where she would be trapped forever. She had to fight, to break free before it was too late. With every ounce of strength she had left, Sarah wrenched her arm free from the reflection's grip. She stumbled back, her legs giving way beneath her. The reflection lunged forward, its hand reaching through the mirror's surface as if trying to drag her into the glass. But Sarah was faster. She ran, escaping the attic and slamming the door behind her. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she stumbled down the stairs, her mind racing. She couldn't stay there any longer. The mirror wasn't just a reflection. It was a trap, a way for that other version of herself to escape into her world. She had to leave, to destroy the mirror before it could take over. But as she looked back, she knew the reflection wasn't done yet. It would always be waiting for her, lurking in the darkness. If you enjoyed this spine-chilling tale, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more haunting stories. And let me know in the comments, would you dare to face the mirror?